Hey creatives, and welcome to Cinema Sunday. I'm so stoked. We are celebrating Black History Month for the rest of the month, and I have learned so much awesome stuff. Let's get started. Alright guys, like I said, I'm super pumped by this. There's a lot of great stuff coming down the pike because I'm focusing and I'm celebrating Black History Month, and there is so much stuff that I think goes unsaid, unthought about, and it's super important that we know all history. With that being said, today I'm going to be talking about the 5 most impactful African American directors of all time. Note, please remember these are my 5 and this is just my opinion. You may have your own, and if you do, please in the comments below go ahead and let me know. Alright guys, so we're gonna do the 5 by 5. I'm gonna talk about 5 films I absolutely think you need to see during Black History Month. Honestly, these films should be seen even if it isn't. I think it's great that we have a month to celebrate, but I think it should be something that is celebrated all year long. History just in general, I think. Anyways, before we jump into that, if we have never met, my name is Kim and I'm a creative freelancer with a passion for film and the written word, and if we have met, welcome back. So let's go ahead and jump into this 5 by 5 and go. All right, so Within Our Gates by Oscar Micheaux. We will talk about him in a few minutes. Raisin in the Sun, Sidney Poitier, Ruby Dee, amazing film. Selma, I can't even. It's amazing. Malcolm X, of course, and 13th, which is a documentary by one of the directors on my list. And that is the 5 by 5 films that you should see to celebrate Black History Month. All right, guys. Honestly, I'm a huge cinephile. I'm a movie, whatever you want to call it, movie lover, film lover, whatever it is. But there's stuff that I've learned in this that I had no idea, and it's amazing. There's some really cool stuff. So let's go ahead and get started with the 5 most impactful African American directors of all time. All right, so the first one, number 5, is Oscar Micheaux. I think I'm pronouncing that name right. It's French, but I never, French production, I can't. So he was 1884 to 1951 when he passed. He was a director and an author. He was actually one of 2, I believe, African Americans who in the early part of like silent films and that stuff actually had a production company. He ran his own production company, did his own films that were, of course, at the time there was segregation, which was ridiculous, but that's a whole different conversation. So it was an all African American production company who did all African American films, and this was in the silent era, which I didn't even know about. So he wrote 7 books. The first one, The Conquest, was his first one, and it was actually the one that got him most of his attention. This book was also the one that got adapted by the Lincoln Production Company, which was the first African American production company ever, which is amazing. He produced over 40 films. He moved in from the silent era to the talkie era. And the one thing I think is amazing is that this is something that happened. Like these are solid movies. You can go and you can see them. And I didn't know anything about it. Guys, let me know in the comments below. Did you guys know about this? And if so, do you think it's as cool as I do? And also, if you've seen any of the films that come from this production company, what did you think of them? How did you feel when you watched them? So he died in 1951, and on his gravestone, I want to be able to quote this word for word. His gravestone says, "A man ahead of his time." A man ahead of his time. I think that nothing truer could be said. Nothing truer could be said. Now, he has some great movies, The Conquest, Within Our Gates. He did receive an honorary star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1987, so I think that's great that the Hollywood people were actually giving him his due, even though it was much past when he should have had it. And so that's number 5, Oscar Micheaux. Check him out. See if you can read any of his books or see any of his movies. Like, I think, in fact, Within Our Gates was actually on my 5 that you should see. Amazing. Just stunning. Like, ridiculously amazing. All right, so we're gonna move on. Number 4, and the only female on the list, Ava DuVernay. So she's a relatively, I'm gonna put in air quotes, like a newer director. She's a director, she's a writer, she's a producer. She actually was the first African American female director to be nominated for Best Film at Sundance, which is amazing. And I want to say, I'm not 100% on this, and I'll make sure, but I want to say it was for a documentary, 13th, I believe. In 2017, she was also nominated for Best Documentary, the 13th, is it? Not the 13th. So amazing. She's actually someone who's done a lot of firsts, and in a relatively small amount of time. Plus, right now, like, we're about to see, like, one of my all-time favorite books she got to direct, and it has amazing cast. I can't wait for it to hit theaters. A Wrinkle in Time. Yeah, amazing. I can't wait. She actually interned at CBS. Originally, she was going to do journalism. She actually covered the O.J. Simpson trial, but I guess after that, she decided she just wanted to move on. And so she attended UCLA as well. She actually won the second time she was nominated for Best Director at Sundance. So she is just a firsts kind of woman, and she's a woman, which that's a whole separate topic. Women in Hollywood, like, there's not that many in this situation, and it's getting better, and there's more coming into the business, and I think that's great. But if it's bad for women, it's even worse for African American females. Like, I think, like, the empowerment, like, let's just empower each other. It doesn't matter color or sexual or anything. Like, I think just empowering each other is going to be super key. And I'm sorry, I went on a little tirade right there, but she is super important and super awesome, like, just amazing. Check out her films. She's done Selma, 13th, and then, like I said, coming into theaters really soon, A Wrinkle in Time, and I cannot wait because that was one of my favorite books of all time. All right, so number 3, and honestly, I put him on because he was kind of like a really multifaceted creative person, and that was Melvin Van Peebles. He's born in 1932, still kicking. He's an actor, director, and a writer. He's actually the father of Mario Van Peebles, which he's a pretty awesome guy too. He's done a lot of different things. Really was one of the pioneers of blaxploitation, which I don't necessarily like the terminology, but it's kind of what they called the films of that time. That was during the 70s, where a lot kind of like Coffee and Foxy Brown, and you know, his film was, and I think I'm gonna have to bleep part of it out, but it was Sweetback's Badass Song. And you know, that's a long title. He really pushed the envelope. He really pioneered this. There were many others, and it was a movement that happened because the African American film community wasn't getting any admiration or any acknowledgement. Like, so they banded together and they started, like, doing films that they wanted to do to push, you know, to get them out there, show that it was just amazing. They're really good films within the genre of blaxploitation, and honestly, for me, most of them starred Pam Grier, which we'll talk about next week. So yeah, check him out. He's also done 9 albums of spoken word. He's published 4 novels and 1 story collection. He graduated from Wesleyan University with a Bachelor's of Arts in Literature, so the fact he writes and does spoken word makes a lot of sense. He's a very well-rounded creative, and honestly, like I said, his biggest movie was the Sweetback's Badass Song. And so check him out, like, research him. He's a very interesting cat, like, serious. And so that's Melvin Van Peebles. Number 2 is going to be William Greaves, and he was born in 1926. He actually died in 2014. He was a filmmaker. He was amazing. So some of his movies are From These Roots and Where Dreams Come True. He did a lot of documentary films highlighting social issues and racial issues and all kinds of different issues. He was very socially conscious, and I think that's something that's super important and sometimes not as prevalent in Hollywood, so you have to kind of go outside. He actually moved to Canada to pursue film, because at that time when he was starting to make films, there wasn't a lot of options or jobs or people that were willing to take a chance on African American filmmaker, which just, I mean, honestly, it makes me sad, like, because his stuff was so amazing. But he did come back to the US during the Civil Rights Movement, and that's when he really started to push a lot more stuff. He actually, after the Martin Luther King assassination, which tragedy, oh my God, I'm crying. He actually started working for like a PBS predecessor, and so where he was doing news and documentaries for them. He actually taught film and TV at, I can never remember the whole thing, the Lee Strasberg Theater and Film Institute. So he taught there, and in 1948 he actually joined the Actor Studio, and when he joined, he was in the same studio as Marlon Brando and Juliette Harris, like some major actors, and he was there with them, but yet still felt he had to go to Canada to pursue his film work. I can't even, you know, that just floors me. So He's actually, a lot of his work is really impactful. So check him out, William Greaves, amazing documentary filmmaker. And so that leads me to number one. And number one is probably the best known, and that is Spike Lee. And the reason Spike Lee is on here is because he has done some there's always social underlying messages in his movies, and he's very passionate about it. He attended Morehouse College. He's taught at several colleges, including Harvard. He's been nominated for an Oscar 2 times, but still has never won, and some of his films are amazing. Movies like Malcolm X, Do the Right Thing, School Days, I mean, name it. For me, because of when I was born, Spike Lee was the predominant African-American director that I watched. I mean, you had John Singleton, you had a couple others, you know, that were amazing, but I feel like Spike Lee had the most impact on Hollywood itself, and that's my opinion. And guys, that's my top 5 most impactful African-American directors of all time. In the comments below, let me know if you have a favorite African-American director, or if I missed anybody that you thought should have been on this list. Let's discuss. And what is your favorite Spike Lee film? Mine, I know it's horrible, but mine is School Days. Oh, no, don't judge. Don't judge. It has to do with my where I was in my life when that came out. So guys, that's it for today's Cinema Sunday. If you liked the video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you're digging on Cinema Sunday, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And please go out and check out all these directors in support and in celebration of Black History Month. And until next time, creatives, safe journeys.